How Jason made over $72,500 on his first probate deal in wholesaling real estate as a beginner. What is up, guys? Zach Gint here. Welcome to the Bags Riches podcast. And we are going to talk with Jason here, how he made over 72 grand on a probate deal and exactly how you can do the same exact thing. Jason, what is up? Welcome for coming on.
How are you, Zach? Thanks for having me on here, man.
Dude, I am blessed, man. Helping people make money in wholesaling. That's what it's all about. And after I saw that you made over 72 grand on a wholesaling deal, I had to get you on, talk about it, and really share the secrets that you did so we know how you and how you did it and how everyone else can do it.
Dude, to be completely honest with you, $72,500, and the only reason I was able to do it was because of you and your dad. I paid no stinking guru any money. Didn't feel the need to. Just watched you and your dad and did exactly what you guys told me to do from day one. Actually, it kind of got a little bit over my skis in the beginning and did some things that I probably shouldn't have done. You know, locked deals up or way higher than I should have once or twice. And thought it was me. Watched more of your videos and realized, oh, no, I got to do a different approach. So thanks to you and your dad, man, I was actually able to quit my full-time job at 10 years that has literally destroyed me and put me in a really bad spot for my family. So I was finally able to quit that.
Awesome, man. Well, let's talk about your life before wholesaling, right? So you said you had a full-time job 10 years. What was that like? And what was that transition into wholesaling real estate?
Dude, so I grew up on a farm, 16, 15 years old, baling hay all summer long, long hot days out in the middle of the cornfield. Grew up in the smallest, poorest county in all of Ohio. My family's always been like super hard workers. Just they've always been the rise and grind kind of people. And I never knew what it was like to even have like $5,000 in my bank account. That's just like, you don't have $5,000 in savings. It's not a usual thing to do. So I grew up there and I, baled hay, did concrete, did construction, roofing, everything. Moved to Marysville, Ohio, met my wife, and actually got into some kind of really bad job with a major building materials company. If I said the name, you know who it is. Or if I even said what it started with, you would know who it is. I didn't work specifically for them, but I was a vendor for them. And this job actually made me stock on the shelves of this particular store about 60,000 pounds of freight a week, manually lifting it and stocking it. Never had any issues with my body. I've gone to the gym every day since I was in 7th grade. I work out a lot. And never had any issues. Got home from work one day, sat on the couch and kind of kicked my footrest back on my couch to kick the recliner in. And as soon as I did that, something caught in my back really tight and I couldn't walk for 3 days. Never had any issues. My kids had to actually help me get dressed in the morning. It was really, really bad. And I've known for the past couple of years it was time for me to quit this job. And I knew that there was something else that I needed to do, and I just didn't know what it was. And then ran into another wholesaler that's actually from my state, unfortunately passed away early. And through a conversation with you and your dad, or maybe your dad, one of the two of you on his post on his YouTube, I stumbled into you and went over to your YouTube, started watching some videos, and immediately the first thing that caught my eye was your intro. And like everybody knows, real estate is one of the most serious, like brass knuckles kind of industries to even try to get into. And you guys like automatically right off the bat caught my eye because your silly intro. And I'm like, man, these guys, if they're this serious and they have an intro like this, they know what they're doing. Watch your intro, watch your videos, and then I just went over to Free Wholesaling and took the course. Actually took the entire course. Heard about SMS blasting through one of your YouTube videos, so I just started texting people manually. Are you the owner of 123 Main Street? And actually, the very first person that texted me back happened to be this deal that I just closed, which led to $72,500.
Wow. Okay. Oh, hey, I tell everyone, wholesaling is a serious business, but I mean, you got to have fun, right? Like, I mean, when you come down to getting the deal, sure, it'd be serious, but like, Life's all about having fun, man. Right? We're all ending up the same place, but man, 72 grand. So let's walk through that deal. So it was through a text.
Yep. So I texted the lady, actually looked her up on True People search to get her phone number.
Mm.
Got her phone number, realized on True People search that she was 84, 85 years old, and got her phone number, texted her. I was like, man, she's 84. She probably doesn't know what a text is. She immediately texted me back, which was crazy. I was just like, hey, are you the owner of this property? She said, yes. I said, do you have any interest in selling it? She said, yes. I'm like, okay, can I call you? Which she said, yes. So I immediately called her. I wasted no time calling her. And that was December 7th. So from December 7th until April, I believe we closed last Friday. So it was, several months, anyways. Several months of communicating. And actually, we stopped communicating for a while because at first she wanted to sell it, and then she didn't want to sell it. And, she's owned the property for 50 years. So she knows the tenants. The tenants have been in the property for 20 years. She leases the farm out, and she's been doing that for 20 years. So, she's built a family of these people, and she didn't want to let them down. So she wanted to sell it, and then she got in her head about, man, I don't want to sell it because, somebody's going to be upset if I sell it. And it was that whole ordeal. But I kind of knew just from our conversations to not stop communicating with her as a whole. So I kind of, she told me that she didn't want to sell it because she didn't know who I was. And she didn't know if I was a scam or not. So it's best to just not talk to her anymore. And I was like, okay. So I waited I think it was 5 weeks before I contacted her back. Called her, and I was like, she didn't answer, so I left her a voicemail. Honestly, I had to fight some nerve to even be able to do it based off of our last conversation. So I fought some nerve, called her back, left her a voicemail, said, hey, it's Jason. It's been a while since we talked. Just wanted to see if you had gained any interest in selling that property. She called me back 3 days later. She said, yeah, I want to sell it. So she was like, as long as you can provide proof of funds by the end of the day, then we'll get that done. And I'm like, dude, I don't. So here's the deal, Zach. It was a $587,500 is what I offered her for this property. Yeah, that was my first conversation through text. I offered her $587,500. Dude, how do you do that? To not go from wholesaling at all to being like, I'm gonna text this person and offer them almost $600,000 that I don't have. Right. Right. It took courage, and it took a lot of me knowing that I didn't have another option. I needed to quit my day job, and I needed to make this work. So whatever it took.
So how did you figure out with that offer, how much the property is roughly worth?
So with it being in the country, it's agricultural land, 55 acres of agricultural land, and a 2,500 square foot farmhouse. So there was one that sold within the last 30 days, about 10 miles away for 1.1 million. So I knew that if I offered her 600,000, no matter what, when I offered them, I think I offered 500,000 at first, and the husband said no, we couldn't do it for anything less than 650. I walked him down to 587.5, and I just knew that as long as I locked it up for under 600,000, I could make money doing it. I probably could have actually sold it for a lot more than I did, and I shouldn't have partnered with a realtor, which I did, but you live and you learn, man. I could have made a lot more money profit-wise for myself had I not done that.
Yeah, you could have also lost the deal too, right? And so
Right.
I think it all worked out, So
Yeah, for
how did you
sure.
get that proof of funds?
Got a hold of the realtor. Was like, hey, got this property under contract over here. My partners and I were gonna buy it. We were gonna try to develop the land. Unfortunately, there's just some things that came up that aren't gonna allow us to do that. So I'm looking for a cash buyer. Do you know anybody in the area that might be looking to acquire this kind of property? And she took about 3 minutes and came back to me with 10 different names. She's like, I'll contact all these people if you want me to. I was like, yeah, do it. But here's the thing, Zach, I was scared. I was really scared because for people that live around farms and grew up around farms, all these old farmers, they go to the elks and stuff together. They go to the moose, they go to the elks, they go shoot pool. They've been drinking buddies for 20 years. Like, who knows how well these people know each other. And so when I reached out to her, that's what I told her. I was like, listen, whoever you bring, they cannot know these people. Because if they know these people, then they're going to bring it up in conversation and passing. Maybe they'll go out to dinner and they'll just be like, hey, I heard you're selling your farm. And then, I could lose the entire deal. So I made sure the realtor found people that didn't know these people. And honestly, I'm glad she was able to do that.
I mean, do you think, do you use you being like a farm boy kind of growing up with your family as rapport with the seller?
Yeah, definitely. She was like, when she finally came back to me about 3 weeks ago and said, look, we'll sell it. I need you to come out here, sit down with me, talk to me. I just want to make sure it's not a scam. I was like, absolutely. You tell me the time and place, will be there. So I showed up. I was actually a little bit scared about that too. That was my second face-to-face seller appointment. The first one went pretty well, I think, but this was the second one. And I was a little nervous because the proof of funds that I got from the buyer actually allotted him a lot more money than what we were wrapping this property up for under my sales agreement. So I was really worried that she was going to point that out and be like, well, I see here that he's been accepted up to $800,000. I want $700,000. I was really worried that was going to throw it all off, but it didn't. So I showed up out there at the house, seller's house, her and her husband, and she walked me right into the dining room table, said, here, have a seat here. Do you want some coffee? I'm like, I'll drink coffee all day long with you, man. She brought out this giant pot of coffee, and we sat and drank probably 6 to 8 cups of coffee together. We were out there for about 2.5 hours talking, and it was really well. Growing up in the country, really, I feel like, thankfully for me, I don't have to have a lot of conversations through phone. Like your dad had mentioned before, that he's much better at doing in-person, face-to-face appointments than he is cold calling. And man, I'm the same way. I hate cold calling. I hate it. And it's not because, I don't want to talk to people, but it's because I don't want to sit here and stare at my computer screen while this phone rings for 20 minutes and nobody's answering the phone. That's what
I get it.
Deal with that. Can't deal with that. But yeah, man, meeting them in person. I mean, we talked for 2.5 hours and drank 6 cups of coffee together and just had a great time. So I'm glad that it went as well as it did, because I honestly, I got discouraged multiple times throughout the transaction, and I thought there was a really good chance I was going to lose the entire deal multiple times, but I kept pushing and kept, I knew that they needed to sell it. They don't have any immediate family. They don't have anybody to leave it to. So they were just going to pass away with it in their name. And, they're both in their 80s. And so I just knew that as long as I continued to push and be open and honest and transparent and friendly, just be a friendly voice, just be somebody that they want to talk to. Not, oh man, this guy's calling me back again. Like, just be strong-willed and just have that connection with them. I knew that it was going to pay off. But the thing that I was the most scared about, though, and to be honest, was just different farmers knowing and finding out that, oh, they're selling their farm. Let me talk to them. That was what I was the most scared of.
Or I'll buy your farm. I'll buy your farm, darn it. It happens all the time, right? The neighbor or the friend, they'll get a good deal, right? But hey, you got it. You actually building that rapport. And guys, it takes forever. Like, I got a recorded appointment I had on like a $60,000 deal when I was training someone, and we're using it for a training program for our own like internal staff. I record, it was 2 hours, like start to finish. I had to talk to that seller for 2 hours. We talked about the Mets for like 30 minutes just to get that rapport for that deal. And that's the thing. Nobody else in your market probably was willing to do with that seller except for you, because you wanted it, right?
Well, dude, to be completely honest with you, I don't think anybody's ever even talked to them about selling that property.
Mm.
Like this place is it's so out there in the country that like yeah, people drive by it, but the only reason that I even messaged her was because the 2,500 square foot farmhouse that's on that land, it was a wreck. I mean, it had trash all in the yard. There was like ladders stacked up on top of ladders and tables where they shouldn't be, and all kinds of junk. And I'm like, man, I don't know what's going on over there. And when I first messaged the seller, I didn't realize there was 55 acres involved. I didn't realize that. I thought it was just the house. I just wanted to get the house. And then she was like, well, do you want the land too? And I'm like, well, let me look up how much land there is, because with a place like that, it doesn't come up on batch leads. It doesn't come up on PropStream. Like, it's too far in the middle of the country. You have to go to the county GIS map to actually get parcel data to figure that kind of stuff out. So when I first messaged, I wasn't going with the intention of offering almost $600,000 for property.
Yeah. Hey. So you got under contract, right? You kind of stumbled through that,
Yep.
but you got it done. So specifically for the realtor, how did you find this realtor that was going to end up getting you the buyer?
So I went to Zillow and I typed in, essentially I typed in land develop. It was like housing additions on Zillow, where like you could see they're selling like parcels for this housing addition and things like that. So I contacted all the listing agents for those because that's what Zach told me to do. I called all these agents. I called like 3 of them. And the only one that actually answered on the first ring was this lady who I actually ended up partnering with. And she's, a realtor of the area for 25 years, and she knows everybody out there. And, she it worked out really well. But the reason that I even did that was because you told me to go to Zillow and look up the listing agents for all these properties, and it worked out.
I love it when people listen to what I say and they actually do it and they get good results because it's simple, man, right? Like it's not complicated. I think that's why a lot of people, start following us because it's like everybody else you listen to about wholesaling right now is like it's super complicated. You got your business suit on, you're all corporate white collar, and really you treat it like a blue collar job. You put your hard hat on and you just get into the grind and do the stuff that it's simple, but it's hard. It works even better. And
Well,
I'm really
dude,
glad
I love
it
you guys.
translates. Go ahead.
I love you guys because you guys are not trying to sell anything, man. Like, you guys are literally giving us every single bit of knowledge that we even need to be successful. Like, between February and right now, which is April 9th, I have made, if I didn't JV that deal, I would have made $82,500, which is double my year's salary at my full-time job. And literally 2
Crazy.
months. Like, dude, there's nowhere else. There's nobody else that's going to give you that knowledge to be able to do that.
I'm
So I'm
telling you,
I'm
man.
eternally grateful for you and your dad.
And you're at the tip of the iceberg on this too, right? Like you got your whole life now. And heck, if you could just because you said you quit your job, put that time we're putting that job into this, not you're working your mind now, not your body. You
Yep.
do this till you're like 85, 90 years old, right? Like you don't have to stop when you're 60 because your body's not going to wear out. Your mind's going to still
Yeah.
be sharp.
Dude, I don't even think I was going to make it to 60 in my full-time job to be. I'm serious. When I went to the
Yeah.
chiropractor after my back froze up like that, I realized I had stage 2 degeneration of my lower spine, and I'm 30 years old.
Jeez.
Yeah, dude. Like, that's what I would have made it like 3 more years of my full-time job. Like, it was bad. It was really bad, and I'm just grateful that I was able to run into you and your dad to be able to save me from that hellscape. To be frank.
Well, it's all you, man. And the last thing I want to talk about here is closing day, right? You get your check, you get the money, right? How did it feel to get that massive deal?
So, dude, let me tell you this. Let's talk about closing day. So, when we got since this was a $660,000 total final purchase price for the buyer, he actually brought a lot of cash to the table, but he had to actually get some transactional funding for it too. So that took a little bit longer for the bank to do the appraisal and to do. He used another one of his properties as collateral on this one. And so it just took a little bit of time to be able to finalize it. But so when I first sat down with the seller, I told the seller that the title company would be willing to come to their house, because that's what my title company does. They will show up at the seller's house, and I love that. That's why I partner with that title company for everything that I've done. They don't care how far they have to drive to be able to do that, and it makes it really convenient for the seller, especially these sellers. They're both in their 80s, and the title company is like 2.5 hours one direction from their house. And so when I sat down with them, I told them that, hey, my title company will come out here. So as we got closer to closing day, my title company, somebody that I hadn't worked with from my title company, told the seller that, hey, if you want the check the same exact day that we get the funds, then you're going to have to come to Columbus to do this, which 2.5 hours. And so I was told that by the seller, and the seller said that they didn't have a problem with it. So I was like, no, that's not going to happen. So I got off the phone with the seller, and I told the title company, I was like, listen, I don't care what you have to do. I don't care what I have to do. If I got to do something, tell me and I'll do it. But you're going to go to the seller's house that day. And I don't care what we got to do to make that happen. But you're going to go close at the seller's house, because they were trying to bring them there during rush hour at like 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and like 2.5 hours away. And I'm like, no, we're not going to do that. Like, so I called the seller back, and well, the title company called the seller, and then I called the seller, and I was like, hey, so I heard that they're coming to your house. And she was like, yeah, I thought that was you. I told you I didn't care, though, but my husband's really appreciative. I don't know, man. I love doing stuff like that. Like, when I tell a seller that I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. Like, and it doesn't matter what string I have to pull to make it happen for you. Like, I'm going to make this as easy as a transaction as I possibly can. So I was really happy to be able to make that happen for them.
I'm telling you, every single time you do the right thing, karma just comes back and blesses you, right? And so, man, you got that check. Must have felt amazing. I mean, was that the moment when you realized you don't have to work that other job anymore? Like, when was that moment you realized it?
Dude, so as soon as I got the closing day, really early in the morning closing day, I called the title company just to make sure that they had all the paperwork back so it was the day after closing day. Make sure all the paperwork that they had to have got back to them. Make sure that the seller had signed when they went out to their house. Make sure everything was done. Got a call around noon that everything was done and that the wire would be hitting my bank account within a couple of hours. As soon as I got the wire in my bank account, I text my boss. I was like, hey, man, where do you want me to drop my stuff off at? Because I'm done. This is it. I'm not coming back. And he was like, well, do you want to talk about it first? I was like, nah, man, I don't have anything to say. I'm done. I've got my sights are aimed at my future here, and I know what I need to do and what I'm supposed to do, and I'm excited to be able to do it. So I quit right then and there.
Dude, that's powerful, man. That's not just for you, not just for your wife, but like your kids watching, like, wow, this is something they can't take away, right? Like this podcast, like they can go in 40 years and come back and be like, hey, my dad, he did a thing. He put his butt on the line. He took a risk, and it went rewarded like crazy, because I did what most people aren't willing to do. And you're breaking the chains in the family, right? You're the entrepreneur now.
Yeah. All thanks to you and your dad. Like, for real. Like, I can't say that enough. Like, all thanks to you and your dad, because I tried watching some of these other goofy guys that want to try to charge you like $10,000 to do something. And I'm like, man, like, there's nothing that they can teach me that Zach and Rick don't. And Zach and Rick know way more and way better than these people do anyways. So, for real, man.
Rick's been probably wholesaling longer than any of them. So,
you guys are amazing, for real. And I seriously appreciate it.
And the one thing I can tell you is I love hearing people that, Warren Buffett's always said this, but it's like, it's not about the boat. It's not about how hard you're rowing, but it's about the boat you're in, right? And so, like, Jason, you were working hard at your job, but like, of course you're working hard, but like, I know people that work really hard that are broke, right? If you put that same work into wholesaling, you just get rich, right? And that's it, man. And so like all these people watching, like you probably work way harder than me and harder than Jason, harder than all these people, but you're working hard in the wrong thing, right? You're in the wrong boat, right? We're talking about boats a little before this, right? You just got to be in the right boat. And if you put that effort into wholesaling versus, a manual labor job, it's insane.
I totally agree. I was putting all of my efforts into something that was not going to propel me forward. And that's the thing about my day job that I began to really have a nasty taste in my mouth about my day job is because I've been there for 10 years. And the way that my day job goes, there's really no room for advancement within the company at all, unless somebody quits or dies or gets fired, which doesn't happen. So,
Yeah.
you're literally working as dead end of a job as you possibly can be working to just try and survive to get to the next paycheck. And it was never going to go anywhere. And that's why I love wholesaling, is because every single thing that I do, every action that I take is a learning experience, and there's so much knowledge to be had. Like, there's so many different techniques, and even like once you get into creative financing, like there's so much, and that's why I love it.
Yeah.
Like, I love real estate because it's endless, and everything that you do just adds experience. Whereas like my day job, like I already know what I'm doing. Like I already know every single thing about this. There's nothing to propel me forward or to push me. And real estate, there's a lot to push you. So
That's it.
I also really love creating these connections, man. Like that's my favorite part is you do connect with a seller that really needs to sell, and you get to just have that conversation and just, I don't know, man. It's just a very warm. It's full of much mana, I will say.
I love it. And then the last part, let's talk about that first deal too. How did you get your first deal?
So my first deal was a driving for dollars deal. I found a dumpster, a giant dumpster, one of those really, like, I don't know, 24-foot long dumpsters in this driveway of a $400,000 house. And I'm like, well, I don't know, maybe they're in a hurry to get out of there. So I went home, I texted them. Actually, no, I texted them as I was standing right at their driveway. I had my dog, because my dog goes with me when we go driving for dollars. It's a really good way for me to be like, oh, I put that on your door because, my dog kind of went up on your porch. So I just put that there. Sorry. My dog's cute. You're not going to get mad at me if I have my dog with me. So, anyways, I texted that dumpster house right as I was standing in front of it. And I'm like, hey, are you trying to sell the house? And they're like, no, but, and they called me. They said, no, but, ... And then they called me. I'm like, that's weird. So I answered the phone and I was like, hey, what's going on with this house? They're like, well, nothing but that house. So we're just doing some improvements, but do you buy houses anywhere else? I was like, wherever. You just tell me where it's at and we'll see what we can do to make it happen. And they actually had a house in a county that has like 4,000 people. And I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to sell that thing. It was actually their parents' house, and their parents had passed away about a year ago and left the house to them. And the house has been vacant since October. So the house has been vacant since October. And so they just wanted to sell it because I guess they had a for sale sign in front of it, but it's in the middle of the country, and they hadn't really gotten any calls about it or anything. Actually, later found out from my buyer that the sign got knocked over by maybe the wind or something. So it was just sitting out there, and I mean, nobody called about the house. So I was really worried I'd be able to sell it or not because of how far in the country it was. First thing I did was I got on Batch, and I just pulled up all cash sales over the last like 30 days out there. And to my surprise, I actually found like 5 cash buyers in like 3 days. It really wasn't difficult at all. For some reason, had 3 cash buyers go out there and take a look at the house. They walked around the property, looked through the windows and stuff. All 3 of them were interested for the same exact price, which was really funny to me. So I knew that I needed a price reduction with the seller. Called the seller and I was like, hey, listen, we do want to buy this house, but we're going to have to be at this price, and we can't do any better than that. I'm really sorry that, I offered you like 20,000 more than what I'd actually be able to sell to be able to buy it for. And she was like, you know what? I just want to get rid of it. I don't really care. If you've got cash, let's just uh, that one very quickly. It took no time at all to sell it. Um, that one was like super easy. But
Yeah.
the only reason I found it was because I found a $400,000 house that had a dumpster in the driveway. And luckily, they didn't want to sell that house, but they had another one that was given to them.
Hey, it's those little things that always work. It's just the little thing you see on the drawing floors that works. But that led to that first deal. And how much was that first deal in total?
The first deal was 10,000.
How did that feel getting that 10 grand first deal?
It was amazing, dude. Like I told you, having $5,000 in our savings account where I come from, like nobody has $5,000 in their savings account. So getting 10,000, which is like a quarter of my year's salary, um, dude, it literally, my wife and I looked at each other. We're just like, this isn't, it's not real. And then this $72,500 one went through, and first thing I did was went to IKEA and bought a brand new desk, like assembled a new desk and got myself a little space in my house now. It's not an office because your dad said offices are counterproductive. So I'm not going to do an office, but I do need a desk because I was sitting on the couch this whole time cold calling people on the
Oh my
couch.
gosh.
Yeah, right. So
Awesome, man. Well, Jason, this is an amazing story. I think it's really inspirational. And I think there's so many people like you that are watching this that are just, they're just getting started and they want to make, 100 grand their first year, 50 grand or anything like that. And I just think it's really inspiring seeing you doing it and seeing you in the future. So, Jason, thank you so much for hopping on. Thank you so much for sharing your story. And I can't wait to see your future growth. So, do you have any parting thoughts to people that are listening that want to get that first deal or that second deal? Just want to tell them anything?
for sure. So, guys, listen, it's not rocket science. What you need to do is you need to listen to every single word that Rick and Zach say. I mean, I'm walking the dog. I'm listening. I've got my headphones on. I'm listening to every single live that they do. Um, Any YouTube video they put out, I listen to it. I watch it. I watch every single thing that these guys do. I hang on to every word that they say, and that's not all you have to do. Just so you know, like that's part of it, but you need to actually put this on your shoulders and go do it. Because if you
Yep.
don't do it, nothing's going to happen. They will give you literally a chest full and they'll put it on your table. But if you're not doing the work to open that chest, it's just a chest full of gold and it's not doing anything. It's just sitting there. So listen to Rick and Zach, do every single thing that they tell you to do, and then go do the work and do it. I don't care what time of day it is. People say, do I cold call on Sunday? Dude, if you've got time on Sunday to cold call, then you should be cold calling. If you got time on Saturday, you should be doing it. If you got time, it doesn't matter when, and it doesn't have to be cold calling. Go door knocking, go talk to people, go reverse driving for dollars. Like, go do the work and listen to them, and it'll work out.
I love it. Jason, thank you so much for hopping on. Can't wait to see you next year and see your growth. Thanks, man.
Zach, thank you, buddy.
All right. Have a blessed